Okay guys, today I'm going to attempt to make my first dream catcher. So these are the supplies that I used. The only thing that I did not include is some cotton yarn. I had some scraps and some crochet thread. So the first thing that I did was I cut the inner ring out of the wreath form. That is from the Dollar Tree, and the majority of the ribbon is from Walmart. I just went through and picked colors that I really liked. This is the crochet thread that I used, and if you'll notice, I just cut off some and wrapped it around a chapstick tube. I found that that was a really good size. If you had a small round of cardboard, that would work as well. And all I did was I wrapped the ring of the wreath form with the cotton yarn that I had. You can do leather. There are lots of ways to do this. I used something like, I think I learned it in like Brownie Scouts. We made friendship bracelets, so I just kind of wrapped it. I accidentally deleted the footage of that. I apologize. Super easy to do. You could also crochet this on. I have seen some other videos and some posts on Pinterest about different ways to do that. So just depending on the material, it would probably be better or worse to do it one way or the other depending on the material that you're using. But this is just some scrap cotton yarn. If you hear snoring in the background, I have the loudest snoring dog in the free world. I apologize. So what you do first is you kind of make a four, I guess you would consider that. You're going to take it out and then loop it back around and just tighten that. And you're going to do that all the way around, depending on how big your ring is and how you want your, I guess you would consider this part the web, how closely you want it to be connected. So if you want something really ornate with a lot of loops, you can make this closer together. It really depends. I have also seen, I did have to practice at this a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, to get it right. So it's just, once you understand what you're doing though, it goes really fast, because this is actually in real time. At this point, I have not sped anything up, and I may not. I think total it, I don't know, I spent maybe 45 minutes making the entire thing once I got the wreath cut apart and wrapped with the yarn. So you make that initial one all the way around, and you can kind of see the loops between each spot where it attaches to the wreath, and that's going to be your contact points for the outside of your net. You could also use cloth doilies. Sometimes you can find those at the Dollar Tree, and you could kind of just attach the edges of the doily to the outside of the wreath. This is not a traditional dream catcher. I mean, no disrespect at all to any Native American culture. I had an idea in my head. I am actually redoing what would have been my daughter's nursery. So right now it is piled up with junk. But this month I'm going to be doing DIY projects to decorate that room. Just budget-friendly DIY things. I'm going to use a lot of Dollar Tree items and kind of use this as my starting point, and do a really budget-friendly makeover in that room. So my goal was every Wednesday to post a video with something doing to the other bedroom. So this video is going up a little bit late. I apologize. If you watched yesterday's video, you know that I am still having some severe back pain. So it has been a struggle really to get anything done, especially after working today. So I really am trying to be diligent about uploading content, and I hope that it's over soon, because I'll feel better and I'll be able to get content up in a a timelier fashion. Hopefully it won't continue to be late night posts. I really like to upload late at night and have them go live early in the morning. If you have a preference on that, please let me know. That way I can post videos at the time that my subscribers are actually going to be able to watch them. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking my, I guess we would call this a bobbin. We'll call it a bobbin. And I am just looping it around each of those loops that I made from the prior round. And I know it does not look like much right now, and it will, like if you see it kind of pulling to one side, don't worry about that, because you can still move the web around even when you get to the center. So right now it's not looking like much, but it starts to come together, I would say about 3 or 4 rounds. And once you really get the hang of it, it does go pretty fast. So if you can't tell by my ribbon choices, the colors I'm going for in this room are kind of like aqua, turquoise, shades of gray and white. It will be a very girly room, but not girly like pinks and purples. I want it to be girly, but not so girly. And if you'll see, now that I'm back to the starting point, so I'm starting on my 3rd round, and I'm just kind of putting my fingernail in that spot and opening it up. Like I said, it will move, so sometimes you might have to kind of separate it to get your bobbin in to wrap the next round. And I apologize for being out of frame. If you see in the positions, the only positions that I can get in without like just screaming in pain, it was hard to find a camera spot or a tripod spot to get my camera in so I could actually kind of film what I was doing. I was sitting on the floor and had my wedge pillow down there with me, and that's what I'm working on, because I found that it was really hard to see the webbing on the carpet. I tried it in bed first, but I have white sheets, so that gray really was not showing up at all. But now I'm starting on the 4th round. And what I did when I put the outside on this was I just left some string at the end and tied it in an overhand knot, and that is what I'm using to hang it. Now, I really feel like it could use some flowers, and I kind of went through the box I have of florals and couldn't really find anything that I love, so I will be on the hunt for some flowers to add, and I will definitely give you an update once I get those. And this is round 5. It went very fast, and this is real time, so I haven't sped anything up. And you can see that the web is really coming together. And there are so many ways that you can do the web part of this. See how it's kind of pulling to one side? It's just moves right over where you need it to be. But depending on how many connections you want, here we are starting round 6. You can make it as tight or as loose, as intricate or as simple as you want. It's really just dependent on the look that you're going for. And Ricky Swears by a dream catcher. So we actually have one that hangs over our bed, and he says that he has less bad dreams. I still have nightmares. I think that's just a product of a bad relationship that I've had, but if it helps him sleep, then I am all for it. But see, those squares are kind of small when you get to the middle, so I was just separating them with my fingernail, and you can watch as the web moves, and it just depends on, you know, where you pull it to. I ended up putting the center pretty much like the end of my web right in the middle. I know a lot of like traditional dream catchers have a bead in the middle. By all means, you could absolutely do a bead. If I were going to do a bead, I would actually put it on my bobbin first at the end that I'm starting to wrap around the bobbin, because that way you can just slide it on. I'm guessing, I mean, depending on what you're using for your center, you could probably glue it on as well at the end or sew it on, but I really think it would be easiest just to slide it on your whatever you're using for your web. And depending on how big your ring is, you can really use a lot of different materials for the inside of your webbing. This is crochet thread just because it happens to be what I had on hand. I think I ordered this on Wish, and it was, surprise, one of those things that showed up not what I thought it was going to be. I actually thought it was going to be like sock weight yarn, and I'd ordered a lot of it thinking I was going to make a shawl. I am a slow knitter, and there's no way that I would have ever in my lifetime finished a shawl with this weight. This is more like lace weight, or even a light lace weight yarn. So my mom calls it crochet thread though, and she has done doilies and things like that out of this size thread or yarn, whatever you want to call it, but it's a little bit small for me. So you can see those little spots are getting smaller and smaller as we get towards the end, so I'm just separating them with my fingernail. And like I said, it does give, so you just slide your bobbin, whatever you're using, through that hole, and it tightens right back up. And you can watch as I pull to one side or the other, the webbing just moves with me. So if it's off center when you start out, don't worry about that. It's very easy to pull it where you need it to be. So I just kind of pulled. I decided that was all that I wanted, and it came together really nicely. And I'm just putting my finger on it to hold it while I cut the end of the thread. And I'm just going to take and tie quite a few knots. I'm just kind of doing an, I guess you would consider that an overhand knot, and trying to get it as close to the center as I can. You know, like when you're threading a needle and you're trying to tie a knot, sometimes it's hard to get it exactly where you want it to. But once you get a couple tied, then you can just hold the knot, and it will ensure that the thread gets down exactly where you need it. I don't remember how many knots I ended up tying, but it was quite a few. See, so I just kind of grabbed the knot with my fingernails, and it made the new thread that I was tying fall right around there. So I did that several times just to make sure that it was secure. And then when I finish everything, I'm actually going to put a dot of super glue in the middle just to make sure that everything holds good and tight. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that out of the way, and I had actually pre-cut a bunch of the ribbon at different lengths. Now, there is another way to do this. You could actually tie all of your ribbons in the order that you want them, and then you could trim them afterwards. That way you had the length that you wanted, and I honestly think that that might be easier. You don't have to tie ribbons. I kind of, like I said, wanted this to be more of like a boho chic dream catcher. It really depends on what you're using to tie on. I used everything from sheer iridescent ribbon to Dollar Tree lace, the eyelet ribbon. Right there is some rickrack that I just laid down, so I'm just laying all of my ribbons down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the longest one first and tie it right in the middle, and then kind of work my way out to either side. I did buy a bag of feathers. It was under $2 at Walmart. I think it was $1.88. And it's a pretty big pack of just plain white feathers. They do sell colored feathers as well, depending on what you're looking for. And you can probably even find some brighter feathers if you went to a craft store. I was trying to keep this on a low budget, as I'm going to do with all of the DIYs for this bedroom makeover. But I just cut my ribbons and laid them out so I could make sure that I started with the longest and then worked my way out either way. But with the feathers, and there's probably a better way to do this, but I just tied knots around the feather with the embroidery thread that I used to make the webbing, and that's how I did it. I just did 4 strings of feathers, and I tied either 2 or 4 feathers, between 2 and 4 feathers on the strings. So I do have feathers on this one, but you could absolutely do it with no feathers, or you could do it with all feathers. It just really depends on the look that you're going for. I know that there are people that make beautiful dream catchers, and like I said, I am by no means, you know, like, I'm not Native American, and I mean no disrespect in any means to anyone of that culture. I think a lot of the things that they make are beautiful, and I'm a little envious of, just the sheer skill of especially beadwork. So beautiful. But this is my take on it, and I'm kind of proud of it for my first go around. I think it turned out pretty good. So this is my first piece, and this is actually just you make those, you can crochet or knit those twirly scarves, and I had a skein of that I've had forever, and I never made a scarf out of it. And I thought, oh, that's a neat texture to add to this, and it was the right color that I needed, so I just went ahead and tied that on. I'm not gonna make you watch me tying all of these ribbons on, so I am going to speed over this part that I did film, and then come back and show you the finished product. So what I'm doing now is just taking some Loctite glue and dabbing it on the tops of all of my ribbons, just where they're attached, to make sure that the knots do not come out. I did cut them pretty close so I didn't have a lot of overhang. Again, I looked through my flower stash and could not find any flowers that I thought would complement this really well, so I am going to be on the lookout. And when I finish the room, I will definitely show that as well. Now, those couple look like they needed a little bit extra. But here it is, guys. This is my finished product. I am pretty proud of it for my first dream catcher. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And come back every Wednesday for the next DIY. Thank you so much. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.